What's up, everybody? Welcome to Touchdown Texas episode 22, the off-season edition. I'm your host, Shivam Patel, and my co-host here, Nick Rodriguez. Hook'em. It's been an interesting, off-season so far. Me and Nick are excited to to come and pump out content. But Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited to be here and get into it, man. We got a special episode for today, so I'm really excited.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to be doing something different. So now there's no games to talk about now, Texas games, and Texas hasn't started their spring workouts yet, which happens around mid-March. So we're going to be doing something something special. So we're going to be doing it's called a Texas Player Draft. So we're going to have a pool of offensive players and defensive players, and me and Nick are going to go back and forth and choose who we would draft. These is a combination of Texas players in the 90s, early 2000s, 2010s, and even some recent Texas players that some of you may recognize. But are you ready for the draft, Nick?
I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's do this.
All right, so we are on the clock. So off camera, me and Nick did a coin toss, and Nick won the toss, and he wants to do offense first. So the first couple of picks may be a little obvious, but who is your number one pick for offense, Nick?
I'm going Vince Young. I'm going to lock in Vince Young with my number one pick, but there's so many guys you could go with. I mean, there's Ricky Williams, Jordan Shipley, Jamal Charles, of course, Bijan, who was with us recently. But I'm not going to take too much time on this one. Give me Vince Young, baby. Give me number 10. So I'm locking in Vince Young with number one pick.
That's great. Nick, great choice. So Nick picks Vince Young with the number one pick, one of the greatest quarterbacks in Texas football history, the GOATs, one of the best players just overall, winning the national championship in 2005, won a lot of big games, was
Oh, yeah.
drafted one of the top five or something in the NFL, top five, top six.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, top five,
Um,
I think. Yeah.
and a lot of big wins, throughout his Longhorns career, Big 12 championships, and he could both beat you running the ball and passing the ball. And he was just a dangerous a weapon on the field, and he was a fun player to watch. So without taking too much time, my number one pick is going to be the other quarterback, number two, Colt McCoy. I
Mm.
think McCoy played with the Texas Longhorns from 2006 to 2009, and he was just incredible. He was very underrated because he was not a big time recruit coming into Texas. He was like a 3-star recruit coming from a small town in Texas, but he's number one in Texas history in passing yards, 13,253. Number one in passing touchdowns, 112. He's tied for the single game amount of touchdown passes thrown. He threw 6 touchdown passes in 2006 against Baylor, and he did get to a national championship game. Unfortunately, he did get hurt against Alabama, but
Yep. Yep.
he did take us to a national championship game. So Colt McCoy is number 2 for me.
That's the one too, right? I mean, this is where the draft starts. Is right here with the third pick. I'm going running back for sure. I'm between a few guys. Oh, I was thinking Earl Campbell. I was thinking Jamal Charles with Vince Young would be nasty. Bijan, but ultimately I'm going with Mr. Williams. Give me Ricky Williams with Vince
Ooh.
Young. Heisman winner. Obviously, he had that massive game against A&M so many years ago. One of the greatest running backs at the University of Texas. So give me Ricky Williams in my backfield, pairing him up with one of the greatest running quarterbacks of all time with Vince Young. So I got Vince Young and Ricky Williams as my 1-2.
Nice pick. Good pick. I'm going to change it up a little bit. I was going to go with the running back, but I'm going to go wide receiver, Jordan
Ooh.
Shipley. I
Ah,
think
nice.
Jordan Shipley finishes his Texas career as the all-time leaders in receptions, 248, second in yards, 3,191, and 33 touchdowns. We remember him for that big kick return against Oklahoma when we were really struggling against Sam Bradford in Oklahoma, and that turned the game around. And he was just an automatic wide receiver, Colts' number one guy. He's just the king of yards after catch. He was automatic for touchdowns, and he was just a really good Longhorns wide receiver, and he is my number 2 overall pick.
I like that. pair them back up together like they used to. Colton Shipley, one of my favorite Texas players, favorite duos of all time was Colton Shipley. So I love that. I need a receiver myself, so I'm going to take Roy Williams here. I need a big play receiver, one of the better receivers in Texas history. We're starting to build up that history now with BJ Worthy and Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden, but give me Roy Williams, man. Just a stud. I need someone on the outside that can just go up and get the ball, and Roy Williams is definitely one of those guys. And him with Ricky and Vince is going to be a pretty hard duo, especially if this was like a flag football scenario where it's just it's just pulling the flag. I feel pretty good about my team so far. But any guys you pick is going to be legendary. So I give me Roy Williams with my third overall pick.
That's awesome. So for my third overall pick, I'm going to go with somebody a little bit older. A lot of Texas fans may not have watched him play, but he's definitely in the history books in Texas. Earl Campbell.
Yeah. For sure.
He played in Texas 1974 to 1977. He's the only one on this list that was the number 1 overall pick, in the draft. He was just amazing from Tyler, Texas. He was just such an impact player. He was just unstoppable at Texas. He had a lot of, huge games. In his freshman year, he had 928 yards and 6 touchdowns. So that was like a coming out party, for him. He led the nation in rushing as a senior in 1977 with 1,744 yards and 19 touchdowns. And he was awarded the Heisman Trophy, of course, becoming the Texas's first recipient of the award. So he's definitely historic. He set the tone for Texas football because after the 70s, we started becoming such a powerhouse, Nick.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Earl Campbell is the guy. I mean, that guy he's awesome. I mean, obviously you and I weren't alive when he was going off, but the highlight tapes come out every year when Texas is honoring him or they're talking about the greats. I mean, he is was so gifted in the backfield and was so smooth. So that's a great little team you got there. You got Colt McCoy, you got Jordan Shipley, you got your running back now with Earl Campbell. So that play action is going to be crazy with Shipley going down the seam there. So I like your team so far.
Thanks. Your team is pretty nasty too with Vince Young, Ricky Williams in the backfield. Sheesh. Good luck to those defenses, bro. How are you going to stop that?
Yeah, well, with my next pick, I'm going to make it even more crazy here. I need some more speed in the backfield. Give me Jamal Charles. We're going to run some crazy option plays here with Jamal, Vince Young, and then I got Ricky with the power and the speed. So give me Jamal Charles, who can do it all. Former Kansas City Chief. One of the greatest professional running backs that ever came through Texas. Obviously, a great collegiate career, but he had an amazing pro career. So give me Jamal Charles, just a change of pace kind of guy. I mean, this guy's going to be completely different than Ricky Williams. This guy is straight speed. Imagine him on the Chiefs today would be unfreaking believable. So give me Ricky and Jamal going sharing the load of the rock. And I got Vince Young who can also run. And then we're going to throw it up to Roy Williams. Can't beat it.
Nick is building up a track team, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I got a track team for sure.
Speed. And nowadays, if these guys were in their prime right now with college football, I don't care how great of a defense you have, you cannot beat speed. So Nick is building up a team with crazy speed, crazy athleticism, and
yes, definitely.
all these guys could juke you too. They're just not just fast. Yeah. They're just not like straight line fast guys. These guys have some wiggle and some juice also. So okay, Nick is putting his GM hat on.
One of the better, I would say, highlight tapes is Jamal Charles. Just so not the biggest guy in the world, but so fast, so smooth. The jukes, like you said, just a fun player to watch. I remember growing up watching his highlights. Maybe. I mean, just up there. I mean, just such a fun player. So I'm glad he's on my squad.
And he not only was an amazing player at Texas, but with the NFL, 11 years in the NFL.
Yeah.
And he wasn't just a player that would just stick on rosters. No, he was a starter. He was an impact player in the NFL.
Oh yeah.
So my next player is going to be a recent player, is Bijan Robinson, plugging in with Earl Campbell.
Wow.
Bijan won the Doak Award in 2022, which is awarded to the best running back in the country. He's 4th all-time in Longhorns history with 3,410 rushing yards, 41 total touchdowns, 33 rushing, 8 receiving, unanimous All-American in 2022, and the fourth UT running back to earn that honor since James Saxton, Earl Campbell, and Ricky Williams. So my pick is Bijan Robinson. He played during the Herman era, so his talent wasn't that much maximized as it should have been. But he was just an awesome player, receiving, running. He was a fast player. He could make people miss. And I'll just leave off with this. Imagine Bijan Robinson in this Texas backfield last year.
I mean, that would have been insane. I mean, Bijan is one of my favorite Texas players of all time. It's a shame that he just missed that. I think he got 1 year of Sark, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, just imagine him if it was like year 2, 3, or 4 of Sark, where we start. I mean, because he was kind of there when Sark was building everything up. We were like 5-7 that first year, so we weren't very good. But I mean, God, Bijan was so fun. Great guy off the field. Mm-hmm. He's with my Atlanta Falcons, so I get to watch him every Sunday. Just seems like a good dude, and he's in the Pro Bowl, so obviously he's a stud. But man, I love Bijan. One of the better dudes that went through Texas, and represents the university very well. So I love Bijan. I'm surprised he lasted this long. I thought about taking him, but I wanted to go old school and take Ricky. So great pick.
And just a quick Bijan story. So Bijan was silently committed to Ohio State that week before. Then he committed to Texas. He's from Arizona, and Texas has not recruited players from Arizona. He was a 5-star player. He chose Texas when he could have been on Ohio State team with Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's now with the Seahawks, and C.J. Stroud. So just imagine that Ohio State team if he actually chose. But again, he believed in the vision. He chose the Texas Longhorns because he's a more complete guy. He's like, I don't want to be defined as a football player. I have more interest outside of football. Don't get me wrong. He loves football. He loves perfecting his craft, but he's just an all-around great person. And he's definitely going to be a Longhorn. He's definitely a Longhorn legend.
Absolutely. I love Bijan. He's awesome. It drives me crazy when the Falcons call him Bijan. They still butcher his name. I mean, he was a top 10 pick. I think 7th overall. I mean,
8th overall. Yeah.
8th overall. I mean, I was so ecstatic because, I live in Atlanta, so I'm a Falcons fan, and was so pumped that Bijan's in Atlanta. I got the jersey, so just a cool guy. Seems like a cool guy that you'd want to hang out with. So love Bijan. We love Bijan.
We do. And just one other thing. So Bijan Robinson was one of the first round picks that Texas has had in a while. It was like a long drought. So him being 8th overall, so he definitely, and he was a 5-star because before him, 5-stars would come to Texas and they would kind of flame out. So it was a little bit of a risky proposition with Bijan coming to Texas as a 5-star because imagine, like I said, if he went to Ohio State was pumping out first round picks like a factory. So Bijan, I love Bijan because he believed in his ability. He believed that Texas was the right fit for him and he could continue to bring Texas into an upward trajectory, and he definitely did that. He won the Alamo Bowl a couple of times. He single-handedly won Tom Herman a lot of games throughout his career.
Oh man, I mean, we were talking about Jamal Charles, like highlight reel. Talk about him. I mean, he had some unreal runs against Oklahoma. Games where I think we ended up losing, but like where he was just like leaping over guys, he was juking them. Super fun, and one of the few guys that we get to see on this list. Actually, the only current guy on this list that we get to see play today. But yeah, awesome.
All right, so who is your next pick, Nick?
Well, I got a couple running backs already, and Jamal Charles and Ricky Williams. I only got one wide receiver, so I'm going to take the other wide receiver off the board here. I need Quan Cosby on the outside. Another guy with speed, so I'm just going to run a lot of option and speed routes, and maybe I'll have Roy Williams throw a ball too. But another big play receiver. Everyone knows him for that big catch against Ohio State. Unfortunately, we couldn't do that about a month ago and beat Ohio State. But give me Quan Cosby, a great guy, great player, great name, Quan. So I think that wraps up my team. I got Mr. Vince, Ricky, and Jamal in the backfield. I got Roy and Quan Cosby on the outside. And speed is the name of the game for my team for sure.
Nice pick. Definitely like Claude Cosby. During the SEC championship game, we actually got him to record a video and we played it on the show.
That's
So
right.
shout
That's right.
in Atlanta, and he threw a little dig at the Aggies. So I love
Yeah.
that. So shout out to you, Claude Cosby. So there's only one player left. Again, he was such a great player. So this is not an indicative of him being picked, the last in our offensive players. But rest in peace,
Mm.
Cedric Benson. Apparently, he passed away too early, but again, just to talk about his impact, on the field, he was Texas running back from 2001 to 2004. He's from Midland, Texas. He's in the 2014 Texas Hall of Fame, earning first team All American honors, and he also won the Doak Campbell Award. And as a senior, he rushed for 1,834 yards, 19 touchdowns. He's second on UT's all-time rushing list and seventh in FBS history with 64 career rushing touchdowns, second in school history. You heard that right. That's just an insane number. He was a power back. He would run you over, but he also could outrace a lot of defenders and defensive backs. He was an awesome player to watch. I remember growing up watching Cedric Benson. He was one of my favorite players to watch because he always made plays when he was on the field. And again, he was gone from this earth too soon, but he was definitely a Longhorn legend. And my last pick is Cedric Benson.
I mean, well said. Definitely gone too soon. Talk about a great guy off the field. Everyone always had great things to say about Cedric Benson, and one of the most underrated players of all time at Texas. I mean, everyone I think thinks about Earl Campbell. They think about Ricky Williams and his crazy 200-yard game to break the record against A&M. I mean, of course, you think about the speedster and Jamal Charles, but there's so many guys. I mean, I remember Deontay Foreman, who I loved. But Cedric Benson, I mean, so underrated, never did anything wrong off the field, was just a good player, played for the Bengals, I believe, and the Packers later in his career, solid NFL player, great guy off the field. But I always loved watching Cedric Benson play. He was a bruiser. He was a tough player.
He definitely was, and he was selected third overall by the Chicago Bears in the 2005 in the 5 draft.
That high.
Yeah, for real. Like I'm reading right now. I'm the Texas football website. You can go back and look at some past players. I do that from time to time, especially now in the offseason, just to appreciate the history, of Texas football. He played 8 years in the NFL. He rushed for 1,000 yards 3 times. And like Nick said, he spent a majority of his career with the Cincinnati Bengals, and he ended his career with 6,000 rushing yards. I don't care who you are in the NFL. That is a beast. He earned a freshman All-American team, Big 12 Offensive Freshman of the Year, and he was twice voted UT's Offensive MVP. So not only was he good in college, but he was great in the NFL. So shout out to Cedric Benson. So my final team is going to be Colt McCoy, Jordan Shipley, Cedric Benson, Bijan Robinson, and Earl Campbell. Who was your final picks, Nick?
I had Vince Young, Ricky Williams, Jamal Charles, Roy Williams, and Quan Cosby.
I love it. I think we both pick awesome players, and you can't go wrong with either of these 10 players. And we wanted to just do something fun. Again, there's more than 10 players we could have chose from. There were some honorable mentions. I'll let Nick mention. He wanted to give some of thoughts of some honorable mentions that were not on this list.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many guys that you could choose from. Even thinking recently, if we're talking about a Matthew Golden, how does he fit in? And Isaiah Bond, who didn't do as much as we thought he would, mainly due to injury. Xavier Worthy, he would be a great pick, a great asset. It's about speed. Xavier Worthy would be a great pick. There's just so many guys.
Duvernay, Devin Duvernay.
He went to the Ravens. He's still on the Ravens.
Yeah, imagine with him. Imagine if he would have been a wide receiver under Sark.
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, yeah. He's like a poor man's Xavier Worthy to me. Just speed. I think Worthy's better, but there's just so many guys. Running backs and receivers and even quarterbacks. Quinn Ewers isn't on this list. If we do this in a few years, is Arch on this list? So, like you said, there's so many guys that you created the list. You created the pool rather, and yeah, you're always going to snub somebody when you have such a deep history.
For sure, and we don't have it tied into this list, but if you did, maybe a Jermichael Finley, he has a
Oh yeah,
chance. A Gunnar Helm, you would not have said that. Gunnar Helm could be. So,
yep,
and so the reason
definitely.
we want to have these kind of things is we love the current Texas players that we play, but me and Nick also love to honor the past Texas players in the history of Texas football because it's such a rich history. So this is an opportunity in the off season to be able to talk about some of these guys, talk about their career, and it's just a way just to honor the past. All right, so now let's go with defensive players. So we picked offensive. Now let's go defensive. So I get the number one pick for defense, and my number one pick is Earl Thomas.
Dang, I was hoping you wouldn't take Earl Thomas.
And what a player, what a career Earl Thomas had. He was a DB for Texas, and he ended up getting drafted, very high, with the Seattle Seahawks. But I remember, so Earl redshirted his first year at Texas, and they would say he was constantly in the film room, even more than some of the current starters, just perfecting his craft. He had such a high football IQ, and that really showed, on the field. And he was drafted really high, by the Seattle Seahawks. He was a finalist for the Thorpe Award, consensus first team All American selection. He had 149 tackles, 10 interceptions in his career, 33 pass breakups, 5 forced fumbles, a blocked punt. He was a captain of the defense, and he was such a great player for us, and he was an impact player for the Longhorns when he played during those national championship teams.
I think he's my favorite defensive player of all time, just because of his tenacity. He was, again, one of the nicer players off the field. Such a beast. I mean, just a ball hawking player. And then obviously, as you mentioned, he was on those Seattle Seahawks teams, the Legion of Boom. Where he was
Yes.
one of the primary defenders or captains on the defense, and those defenses were some of the best in NFL history. And Earl Thomas was a big part of that. So always love Earl Thomas. I mean, just a great player. And that's who I would have gone if you didn't take Earl Thomas. I was hoping he would sneak off to me. Obviously, he did not. So I'm going to have to rethink my strategy here on the fly. But I love Earl Thomas. One of my favorite Texas players of all time, for sure.
Definitely. And in the NFL, yeah, he won the Super Bowl with the Legion of Boom defense. He made 6 Pro Bowls. He was a five-time All Pro Team player. And he was awesome. He was a really high IQ player that would always be in the right spot in the right time. And he could hit you. He had the ball skills. He had the tackling skills. He was just an all-around player.
Definitely. Okay, so for my first defensive pick, I was going back and forth. Again, I wanted to take Earl Thomas. I was thinking about taking a newer guy. I won't say which one. There's a couple of guys on this list that are newer, but I'm gonna go with Derek Johnson, the linebacker.
Nice.
Played in the early 2000s under Mac Brown. One of the most decorated defensive players we've had in our history. Just ferocious, mean, would just throw you around like a rag doll. So give me DJ on the outside just to come after you and come get you, because you talk about a mean, nasty player. That is Derek Johnson.
Wow, yeah, great pick. I remember watching some Derek Johnson games growing up, and yeah, he was awesome. He had the tenacity. He was a great player that was not afraid to hit you, and he was patrolling the linebacker spot. You couldn't get past him, so good luck. He could both stop the run. He could stop the run and rush the passer. So for my next pick is another guy that can do that, to stop the run and rush the passer. Brian Arakpo. He was an edge player.
I like Brian Orakpo.
He was a basketball player all the way in high school, and he actually has a son now that plays basketball. He's been playing a lot of AAU basketball, and he's about to get to high school. But he played in 47 career games. He won the Narguzzi Trophy. He was a Lombardi Award, finalist, consensus Big 12 Player of the Year, unanimous first team All American. He was awesome. He was built. He had the muscle. He was strong. He could squat over 600 pounds. That's what they would say. Power clean over 380 pounds. He was just a physical specimen. Like, I wouldn't want to be tackled by him. Like, good luck. Good luck with that. Like, um, you know, he was just an awesome player with the tackle, with the tackles. He had the pass rushing moves. He lived in the backfield of the defense. So my pick is Brian Arakpo.
I like Orakpo, another great player on the defensive side of the ball. I need a DB. I need someone who can cover. I need a guy that just gave away Jade Barron his number this past season. Give me Mr. Michael Huff.
Ooh.
Yeah, I need someone that can cover a little bit, especially if we're doing this where you got a lot of great receivers on your squad. You got Jordan Shipley. I need someone to cover Jordan Shipley. So give me Michael Huff, number 7 All-American, one of the best cornerbacks in our history, if not the best of all time. So give me Michael Huff back there to be the sniper. You got Earl Thomas, your safety. I need my hard-hitting corner as well. I got Derek Johnson, Michael Huff. Yeah, I feel great about that. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Great selection. Honestly, Michael Huff was awesome to watch.
Yes.
I think he's number 2, but it's like a 1A, 1B just behind Earl Thomas, because he was a ball hawk. Like anytime you would need a big play, just like Earl Thomas, Michael Huff would make that big play for you. He was the quarterback of the defense. He would get everybody aligned. He would get everybody in the right spots, and it always seemed like he was around the ball. It seemed like almost every play. So great selection in Michael Huff. So I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to go with somebody that was on the team recently, T'Vondre Sweat. He's 366 pounds. He's a dancing bear. And he had such a great rookie season with the Tennessee Titans. He won the 2023 Outland Award, unanimous All-American selection. He was a second-round pick. He was just living in the backfield. He was just unblockable, and he could rush the passer, but he's also really good with the run. And you saw the play when he was with the Titans, he picked up the ball and almost ran to the end zone. Good luck trying to tackle T'Vondre Sweat. And even though he had a great career with Texas, I still feel like he was one of the more underrated defensive tackles that have come through this program.
Oh man, that was a guy that I was going back and forth with. Like, do I get Michael Huff? Do I take Sweat? I ended up going Huff, obviously, but Sweat. I mean, you said it. Talk about a big human being. That guy will eat you. I mean, there was that video, I think, during the playoffs, where he's talking about everybody hates us, and he's like he's a big dude, and he's balling out. He's such a good player. I love T'Vondre Sweat. He was huge in the Big 12 championship game. It wasn't he the one that kind of touchdown pass against Oklahoma State? Was that him? Or was that
did. Thank you. Yeah. How did I forget that? Yeah.
Yeah. T'Vondre Sweat, baller of a guy. And it seems like a cool locker room guy. Another guy you would just want to hang out with, have a couple beers. So I like T'Vondre Sweat a lot.
And they said he's such a funny guy off the court. And before, he was not as physically developed coming to Texas because he was another basketball guy like Brian Arakpo. And you can see the trend, playing basketball allows you to get quick feet because these guys are just, in the paint. So you have to have quick feet, quick instincts. So that translated from the hard court to the football field, in my opinion, for both Brian Arakpo and T'Vondre Sweat.
Man, you got a squad. T'Vondre Sweat, Earl Thomas, and who was your other one? Brian Arakpo.
Brian, how you gonna block Arakpo and Sweat, and then if you can block them, you got Earl Thomas intercepting in the backfield.
I know. I need Kelvin Banks on my team. I got Derek Johnson. I got Michael Huff. I got the linebacker. I got a defensive back and a safety in Michael Huff. I need someone on the defensive line. Since you took my T'Vondre Sweat pick, I'm going to take another current NFL guy, recent Texas player. Give me Byron Murphy. Same draft.
Oh, let's go.
Seattle Seahawks, tearing people apart, ripping people down. You talk about another big big boy. Give me Byron Murphy, balling out with the Seattle Seahawks. Great defensive line player. He was a guy who went really underrated when we were going through the draft process. And then as the draft got closer and closer, it was a guy that everyone loved his film. Got after the quarterback. He's mean. So him with Derek Johnson, I feel good about that. And again, I'm trying to build a team similar to you here. Michael Huff in my back and in my as my defensive back here. So I feel pretty good about Byron Murphy getting after your quarterback here. So I feel good. I think I'm trying to go toe to toe with you here.
Nice pick. If Nick had picked T'Vondre Sweat with the previous pick, I would have picked Byron Murphy again. He's so strong, Byron Murphy, and
he is.
He couldn't get blocked. Like the whole season last year, the TCU game he couldn't be blocked. The Oklahoma game, even Washington in the playoffs 2 years ago couldn't block him. Oklahoma State, he should have been the defensive player of the year or defensive player of the game in my opinion with that game. So 100%. Byron Murphy, he was a first round player to be drafted for Texas since Malcolm Brown in 2015.
Love Malcolm Brown.
So Byron Murphy went 19 again to the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks love Longhorns. Michael Dixon, Byron Murphy, Earl Thomas. They love Longhorns. So
Andre Diggs.
Condre Diggs, yeah, great selection, Nick. Great selection, for sure.
It gets interesting here. I'm very curious to see where you go. I'm very curious.
So I'm going to go with the older guy, Casey Hampton.
Okay.
He's from Galveston. He was the 19th pick with the Seahawks in the first round in the 2001 draft. He played 12 seasons in the NFL, making 5 Pro Bowls, tying Earl Campbell and Tommy Nomas for the most by a Longhorn. But he was a 2-time first-team All-American in the 2000 Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. He anchored one of the nation's top defenses in his final 2 seasons, which is 98 through 2000. The Longhorns at that time ranked 6th nationally in total defense and 7th in yards per game. He was inducted in the Texas Hall of Fame. So I'm going to go with Casey Hampton.
I know I say this for like every player, but I love Casey Hampton. Great defensive player. Defensive back, he played for the Chargers, and then he's bounced around. But he was a good player, man. I liked Casey Hampton. It's cool seeing these guys like in their NFL careers repping the Longhorns, and we're gonna have a lot of guys to choose from next year. When maybe Jahdae Barron's in here, maybe Michael Taft is in here.
Right.
Speaking of Michael Taft, I'm gonna take a guy to me who really reminds me of Michael Taft, and that's Mr. Blake Gideon.
Yes,
on the current Texas squad is he a DB's coach? He's
a DB's coach, yeah.
DB's coach, right? First of all, he's done a great job as a DB's coach. I mean, Jahdae Barron, Michael Taft, Makuba. There's so many great guys on that squad.
Yeah.
But talk about a guy that had a high IQ. I mean, I already got that with Michael Huff, but now I get another crazy, freaky DB and Blake Gideon. I loved Blake Gideon. Such a smart player. Would hit you, was not afraid, did not care. And I see a lot of Michael Taft in him, or I see a lot of Blake Gideon and Michael Taft. Just, I didn't always feel like Gideon got the recognition that Michael Huff would get or Jahdae Barron would get.
I agree.
But Blake Gideon, the real ones know how good freaking Blake Gideon was. And when Texas hired him as a DB's coach, and he did some recruiting stuff, they all do recruiting, but I was pumped because I love Blake Gideon. He was awesome, such an enforcer on the defensive side. And he reminds me a lot of Michael Taft. And I think if we do this next year, I think Michael Taft deserves to be on this list too. And but I feel good. I feel good about my two really, really. I think when you have a defense, you want to have really smart guys in the back end. Mm-hmm. And you have that with Casey Hampton, one of the smarter guys that ever came through Texas. Michael Huff, Earl Thomas is probably the smartest defensive player we've ever had.
Yeah.
I mean, truly the quarterback back there. But Blake Gideon, one of the smartest ones. And I really think maybe the most underrated Texas player of all time.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
But he's up. I think he's very underrated.
I think he's up there with also a lot of Texas fans may remember Dylan Haynes also. So yeah, yeah. But just to talk about Blake Gideon, yes, he is very underrated. A lot of Texas fans, I don't think, have a high regard for him, which is wrong because he did drop that interception in the Texas Tech game, the Michael Crabtree game. But that one play should not define his overall career. Like
Yeah.
he was such an awesome player, and he was one of the best DBs in the country. He had the ball skills. He was just when the ball is in the air and Blake Gideon is defending it. 9 times out of 10, he's going to make a play on the ball. He was not afraid to help with run support as well. Even him on the corner blitzes, he was amazing. He would get to the quarterback. He had a lot of blitzing skills as well. And I think that's the main reason Sark wanted him to be on the staff because he was a smart player, because he was only like a 3-star recruit coming out of high school.
Right.
But
That's what I'm saying.
He maximized his ability because of his instincts and his football IQ. And I think that's the reason why Sark wanted him to be on the staff. So I love that selection. Actually, I would have picked I had to pick Casey Hampton just because of his overall career, but it was a toss-up between Blake Gideon and Casey Hampton for me. So I like the pick, Nick. That's definitely a great pick.
What do you think? What do you think as far as like him being underrated and a comp to Michael Taft, just as a guy that just wasn't as like it wasn't the 5-star, 4-star. I mean, hell, Taft was a walk-on before he got his scholarship. I mean, do you think that's a fair comparison at all?
I love that comparison actually, because they are such similar players, guys that just had to grind, had to work to get to where they are. But they're not just there because they worked hard. They also have the skills in addition to the work ethic. And both guys are not the fastest guys. They're not going to run the highest 40 time. They're not going to have the highest vertical, but they're just guys that make plays when you need to make plays. And they were both captains on their team, and they both have they put their head down. They don't complain. They're great teammates. And I love it that both guys bleed the burnt orange. They grew up wanting to play for Texas, and those guys ended up being successful, aka Sam Ellinger, like a Sam Ellinger type of guy. So I love that, and I love the comp. So and we are going to be talking about Michael Taft after his career is done, no matter what he does in the NFL, because this list is, we primarily want to talk about these guys during their Texas career, like what they did in college. NFL is a bonus because a lot of these guys had successful NFL careers, Nick, and Blake Gideon had a great NFL career. Like he was on teams, but he was such a great player at Texas. So I like that comp. All right, so my next pick is going to be a pass rusher, Brian Robeson. And he was a fan favorite when he played at Texas. He was a track and field guy as well, as a football player. So he won the he was part of the national championship winning team in 2005. He was part of the defense that stopped USC's fourth down that ended up setting up Texas's game-winning drive. He finished second in the shot put in the 2006 NCAA Outdoor Championship. So he was a great track guy, but he was a 4-year letterman from 2003 to 2006. He helped Texas get a pair of Rose Bowl victories. And he was a great tackler, tackle for loss guy, a starter on the national championship team, helped Texas get a perfect 13-0 record. He posted a career best 58 tackles, 50 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, 10 QB crushers. So Ryan Roberson, as another pass rusher, is the guy that I'm going to select.
Great pick. I mean, there's so many guys to choose from here. I am very happy with the way the draft has turned out for me. I end up with Mr. Jordan Hicks over here. I am very okay with taking the Super Bowl champ, Jordan Hicks.
Yeah.
He won his Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles back when they beat the Patriots. It's like 6 years ago now, which is crazy. But Jordan Hicks, another great player, linebacker, a lot of experience when he played. That's a guy that's going to pair perfectly with Derek Johnson on the other side. Both of them are going to be able to get to the quarterback. Smart player, was able to get to the quarterback. Very decorated, playing the mid 2000s, or not mid 2000s, but like 2010, 2013, 2014
Mhm.
range, and was a great player. And he's from Colorado and made the trek all the
Yeah,
way to Texas. And
like Hunter Help. Yeah.
exactly. So I'm very happy with Jordan Hicks. I'm very happy with Jordan Hicks, and that was kind of like that was an era where we weren't at the top of our peak. We were kind of coming down. That 2010 year, obviously, or the 2009 2010 season, we went to the championship game and ultimately lost to Alabama.
Mhm.
But then after that, we were like, really trying to find ourselves, and up until recently found ourselves. So I have a lot of love for guys that were in that era still balling out, even though we were having basically an identity crisis for about 15 years until we, hired Sark and figured it out. But I love Jordan Hicks, great player, goes perfectly with my team with Byron Murphy. Let me just run through my team here. So I got
Mhm.
Derek Johnson, Michael Huff, Blake Gideon, Jordan Hicks, and Byron Murphy to sure up my defense.
I love the Jordan Hicks selection. I wish he was on a better team because he would have been more
Yeah.
recognized. But those that know. So I love Jordan Hicks. He could get to the pass rusher. He had the pass rushing moves. His motor was outstanding. He just played hard. He was a fast player. So great last selection with Jordan Hicks. So my players for defense were Brian Arakpo, Earl Thomas, Tavondre Sweat, Brian Robeson, Casey Hampton, and Blake. And no, I think that yeah. So I think those are all my selections. Because Nick, you selected Gideon and Hicks, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So any other? So who are your honorable mentions for defense that were not on this list?
I would say Jade Barron would be on that list. Just a guy, he won the Thorpe Award. Um, I would say Michael Taft would be on that list. Just a couple current guys that played really well, and yeah, those are the two guys that probably jump out to me right away.
No, that great selections, Nick. I think that both of the, I think Jahdae Barron eventually he's going to have a great NFL career, but he's going to be remembered for his play at Texas. So yes, Jahdae Barron is definitely going to be on this. I think once Anthony Hill leaves, he has a chance. I know he is a current player. Colin Simmons, but no, I think that's a great selection. For honorable mentions.
Maybe even
Well,
Quandre Diggs. I mean, if you go even deeper, but he had probably a better NFL career.
yeah.
Maybe it's interesting because there's so many guys. I was even thinking about the offensive guys where you could be like, man, they had probably a better NFL career than
Mhm.
college career, and they had a great college career. Diggs might be one of those guys because he just played for so long and he was smart.
Yeah.
I think he's still
Yeah.
playing actually.
He is. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, but I think what I was going to say is I think Byron Murphy could be one of those guys who balled out at Texas, but I think he could actually have a better NFL career than college career just because of the scheme, how he fits, and he's just maturing and just
Totally
getting better.
agree.
But yeah,
Totally agree. Another guy, Malcolm Brown, the defensive guy, because he was a first round pick in 2015.
yep,
He
yep.
I would have put like Caden Stearns, but he kind of was injury
Oh
prone.
yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah,
but remember he had that monster freshman year, and it looked like he was up on the trajectory. But he
yeah.
would have been a player I would have mentioned, but maybe not made this list. So, but these are all different guys from different eras that we want to give some love to and give a shout out to. But so that is our draft. So I hope everybody enjoyed our offense and defensive player draft. These were Texas players from all eras. Again, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and even a couple that played recently. But now let's switch gears, Nick. Let's talk about some Texas hoops on the hardcore. They had a huge win last night against LSU. Four quad one wins now. So my first question to get this discussion started: is Texas going to be a lock to make the NCAA tournament?
I think so. I think so, and I say I think so because God, it wasn't looking super great. I think it was like 2 weeks ago we were playing A&M and we were texting back and forth, and I'm like, honestly, I don't think we're a tournament team. Of course, we end up coming back. We have the huge win. Um, We've had trouble closing games out. Like we struggled against Ole Miss. Oh, God, that would have been a huge win for us. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, we couldn't get it done. We end up beating LSU. The SEC is just so freaking good. I still think we're a tournament team, though, because we lose a close one to Auburn. We lose a
Mhm.
close one to Tennessee. We were kind of in it with Florida, and then they kind of beat the brakes off of us towards the end. But Florida's damn good. But we beat up LSU in a game that we had to have. LSU was probably more desperate than us. We were on the road, but they kept having games where they would lose like one possession or like really, really close games, and they kept faltering. But we
Mhm.
ended up like really taking care of LSU. But I ultimately think we are, and I ultimately think we're starting to play our best basketball now. We get another game with Tennessee, right? Don't we play them again?
No, we play Alabama and Kentucky again. Or no,
Which
not,
is gonna
I mean not again, but they're going to be two top
we play them
10
again,
teams that
or
we
we
play.
play them.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
it's going to be tough. I mean, it's going to be tough. The SEC kills each other, but I think part of that is you can have a lesser record and get in just because the SEC is so good. So I do think we get in. It would be helpful if we could beat a Kentucky who just lost to Arkansas last night.
Mhm.
Shout out Coach Cal. And by the way, they booed him. Really? Are you kidding
I
me?
know, right? It's like,
That's
come
why
on.
people hate Kentucky fans, because that guy brought you a championship. He brought you literally like 30, 50, I don't know. It's like NBA players, and you're going to boo the man? Really? Um,
37 first round picks, over 50 NBA draft picks. Yeah.
so annoying. That's why Kentucky's so annoying. But Duke would never
Facts.
do that, I don't think. Like if Coach
Yeah.
K left and coached somewhere else and came back, they would honor that man. But
Mhm.
anyways, I still think we get in. We need a couple more big wins. The magic number to me is always 20. I think we're at 15-7, which is like right on the cusp. Obviously, there's a
Mhm.
ways to go. We need to have a good tournament. Like if we win a couple games, I think we're going to be in a good spot. A lot of teams lost yesterday, which is
Yeah.
helpful. But ultimately, it's a long-winded way of saying yes. I think we're a tournament team. Trey Johnson.
We, we are a tournament team, and the SEC this year is wild. Joe Lunardi has 13 SEC teams in the tournament. Just to give people context, there's 16 teams in the conference, and I don't want anybody to hear us discount LSU's record. Yes, LSU's 1-6 in conference, but as Nick said correctly, they could have had 2, 3, or maybe even 4 wins.
Yep.
We watched last night. They're a good team. They have good players. It's just the SEC is just so tough this year. And
Yep.
we play Alabama, we play Kentucky. So those are both top 10 teams. We have a chance to get a big win. Mississippi State is a top 15 win. We have a chance to get that win. So in my opinion, 8-10 in conference will get you in the tournament. Right now, we have 4 conference wins. We're 4-5. So we need to win 4 to 5 more conference games to get comfortably in the tournament, Nick. But Trey Johnson, let's just talk about him. What a freshman season he had. He came out right out the gate, 30 points against Ohio State. Against A&M, we were down by 22 points. Trey Johnson, as a freshman, true freshman, I might say, put us on his back. He made incredible shots. He can score on all 3 levels, Nick, and he's one of the best Texas freshmen since Kevin Durant, and he's putting up insane numbers.
He is so freaking fun to watch. He is such a bucket. I mean, the way he can score in any way, mid range, 3-pointer, he can get to the hoop. He's got a good dribble. That's why I think this team is scary, because early on he was still he could still fill it up, but he was still figuring how to play collegiate basketball and figuring out how to play SEC basketball at a high level. And he's like one of the leading scorers. I think he's the leading scorer in the SEC, is he not?
He is, yeah, he is. It's
And then
insane.
that Alabama guard who's really good, I can't think of his name right now, is like number
Oh,
2.
Mark Sears,
Mark Sears. Mark Sears. He's a good player. Is number
very good
2.
player.
But
Yeah.
Trey Johnson, I mean, he is such a bucket. That's why we have to get. It'd be such a disappointment if we don't make the tournament, because even if we go one and done, we lose. Like, I need to see Trey Johnson just go off, and we have talent. It's not like we're not good. It's just like you said. I mean, LSU's a talented team. Every team is talented. in this league, and our next game is against Arkansas. That's Coach Cal, baby. So
That's gonna be a good game, and
it's gonna be a good game, and he can fill it up. Even games where we as a team did not perform well, he has performed well. He was crucial in that A&M comeback. He's gonna be such a good NBA player. He's gonna be like, the Durant for years to come, and being like, hey, like, that's a Texas guy, he went to Texas, he's one of ours, like Ant in UGA, or, Chris Paul in Wake Forest. Like, you can rep those guys. So, freaking love Trey Johnson. He's so awesome, man. I wish we had him for more than 1 year, but obviously we just get him for like 6 months. So hopefully we can make the tournament, make a deep run.
I might get a Trey Johnson jersey next year, even if he doesn't get drafted by the Spurs, or he might get drafted by the Hawks. You never know.
You don't deserve him on the Spurs. That's unfair. You're gonna get De'Aaron Fox. You're gonna get Wemby and Trey Johnson. That's unfair.
That's gonna be crazy. And Castle too, Stephon Castle.
You don't deserve that.
and right now in the mock draft, Nick, Trey Johnson's being mocked 6 or 7. And again, this draft is incredibly deep. So they said if you're a top 7 or 8 pick, most likely you're going to make 2 or 3 All-Star games. So if he's drafted number 6 in this insane draft, he has a chance. And I just love he is a dog. Like, as a freshman, he's not afraid. You see, in a good way, he gets in guys' faces. He'll be like to a guy, like, cut, like, and he'll aggressively, like, call for the ball. Like, he is not afraid of the moment. He'll take big shots. He'll make big shots. His turnaround mid-range game is ice. Like, it just swishes. His three-point game is amazing. He's over 90% from the free throw line, so he's a great player. And we need to enjoy him, Longhorns fans, because we're only going to get him for like maybe a month and a half, 2 months more. So we need to enjoy every single Trey Johnson game. But again, big game against Arkansas coming up. Arkansas is fighting for their tournament lives. They have 2 SEC wins, but now they have a chance to continue to build their resume in going into the tournament. So let me get Nick's prediction. Who is going to win that game Wednesday night? It is in Austin.
We are, baby. We are. We are. It's in Austin. I think we're playing our best basketball right now. Like you said, they're a desperate team, though. I mean, this is awesome. This is what you live for when it comes to college basketball. I know this is mostly a football podcast, but this is first and foremost a Texas Longhorns podcast, baby. And
hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So if any, if Shivam and I have talked about this off air, if any sport is doing well, because we're not just Texas people. We're not just Texas football people. We're Texas university people. So like if the baseball team is doing great, if the softball team, volleyball, shout out volleyball, went back to back a few years ago. So this is the time, man. This is basically the tournament right now. Like it's like the playoffs now. You got to win these games. You got to be, because if they're going to go, it's either Arkansas or Texas. Oh, Texas has the head-to-head. Or if they're, let's say Clemson is really good, right? That's better wins. I think with that what do you call it? That quad win, we have 4 of those. I think that's huge. Yeah, we have
but the more 4 quad wins. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So the more you can stack those, the better. Of course, I think we're going to win. It's going to be tight. It's going to be close. But when it's close like that and you got a baller like Trey Johnson to give the ball to, that's what you want in close games. So, yeah, of course we're going to win.
And we play Arkansas home and home. So we play home against Arkansas, then we have to go at Arkansas. So let me just read you the remaining schedule. Arkansas Wednesday. We play at Vandy Saturday, who got wrecked by Oklahoma. Alabama comes to our place. They're number 4 in the country. Kentucky comes to our place. We play at South Carolina. That's a dangerous game because South Carolina has not won an SEC game, but they've been very close at a lot of games. So that might be a trap game, Nick, at South Carolina. We play at Arkansas. Georgia comes to Texas, comes to Austin. Georgia is a tournament team in basketball.
Yeah, they're good. Although they just got smacked by Bama.
They did. That's just life in the SEC. On the road at Mississippi State, who also is a tournament team. Maybe I should not even say. Pretty much all the SEC teams are tournament teams, maybe except LSU and South Carolina. I think those are the only teams that are most likely not going to make the tournament.
And they're good teams.
And they're good teams.
Legitimately good teams.
And then Oklahoma comes to our place. So as long as we get 4 or 5 more wins, we are going to be in the tournament. We can do that for sure. but again, so as Nick said, he said this correctly that we're going to talk about all different sports as they continue to do well. So we're going to have a lot more basketball talk as we get closer to the tournament. So stay tuned, touchdown Texas fans. So our last topic I wanted to talk about today is the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is a week from this Sunday. It's the Kansas City Chiefs against the Philadelphia Eagles. So some Longhorns that are playing. Xavier Worthy is on the Chiefs. On the Eagles, Moro Ojomo, and as well as Charles Omedehu, who's also on the Chiefs. So three Longhorns are going to be represented in the Super Bowl. Give me your preview, Nick, and who's going to raise the Lombardi Trophy?
Oh man, it's going to be a great game. First, it's awesome that you're going to have a Longhorn win the Super Bowl no matter the outcome, which is so cool. And I read if Xavier Worthy or whoever catches a touchdown pass, I mean, obviously Worthy's the more likely guy, but if he scores a touchdown, I think he would be the first Longhorn to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl.
Did you see that? I heard that stat.
Which is insane. But anyways, I think it's going to be a back and forth. Yeah. First of all, I think that's going to happen. I think Worthy does catch a touchdown pass. I think it's going to be back and forth, really, really close. But until it happens, until I see them get beat in the postseason, I'm going to take the Chiefs 27-24. Xavier Worthy gets his Super Bowl. Xavier Worthy gets his, etches himself into Texas history once again, and becomes the first Texas player to catch a touchdown pass. But it's going to be Mahomes winning Super Bowl MVP. I really went back and forth with this one. I really could see the Eagles winning this game. I don't like the Eagles as a Falcons fan. I know you don't like the Eagles, especially as a Cowboys fan.
Yeah.
I do love Saquon. I'm okay with Jalen Hurts, even though he always plays for the wrong teams. That's what my family always jokes about. Like, he went to Alabama, which we don't like. He went to Oklahoma, which we don't like. And he went to the Eagles. But he's seems like a nice guy. But I do like Saquon. So if the Eagles were to win, I'd be happy for Saquon. But their fans are the worst. But I do ultimately think it's a tight game. It's going to be an awesome game. It'd be a good Super Bowl, which is ultimately all that matters. As Cowboys and Falcons fans, we're not going to be there for a minute. So I think the Chiefs win. And ultimately, I think I'm okay with that because I do like Mahomes. He's from Texas, even though he's a Red Raider. But they're kind of annoying and spoiled. But I think it would be cool to see a three-peat. That's history in itself. So I do think they win by a field goal, but it should be a good game.
It definitely should be a good game. And as a Cowboys fan, this is brutal to watch because we're not going to go to the Super Bowl anytime soon. Again, we can talk about this another episode. I don't know what we're doing. But
Jesus.
Yikes. But okay, it's all right. I'll digress with that. But the Super Bowl, it's going to be a great game. I'm looking forward. The Kansas City defense has been amazing all season and all postseason. Can the Philadelphia Eagles move the ball on this Kansas City defense? And when they're in the red zone, can they get touchdowns instead of field goals? I would like to see them, see if they can stop Saquon because he is ahead of the stake for the Eagles. But you cannot just focus just on Saquon because they have Devontae Smith, they have A.J. Brown, they have Dallas Goedert. So how does this Eagles offense match up with this Kansas City defense? Because if the Eagles offense continues to score, that puts a lot of pressure on the Chiefs offense because the Chiefs offense is not a high-powered offense. They're more like driving down the field offense, possession offensive team. So that'll put a lot of pressure on Mahomes to make that big play, and that can force him to make a turnover. So, but again, if the Kansas City's defense dominates and they're able to get a lot of takeaways on Philadelphia, then Mahomes could dictate the game. But I think Mahomes is just too unstoppable in Super Bowls. The only Super Bowl that he lost was against Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that was in Tampa. So
and they weren't even that good. They were good, but it's not the same level of Chiefs as they are now. And the Bucs were better.
The Bucs were the better team, but a lot of people say that Mahomes can never pass Brady because Brady beat him one-on-one in the Super Bowl. They're gonna look. That was my next question for you. But if Mahomes wins, he'll be 4-1 in Super Bowls. Brady won what? He won 7 Super Bowls, I think. Seven. And Mahomes is only 29. I told Nick this, and I don't think he agreed with my opinion, but I think he saw where I was coming from. I don't think Josh Allen or Lamar are ever going to go to a Super Bowl because I think Mahomes is going to dominate the Super Bowl, and he's at least going to go to the next 10 AFC Championship games, and he's probably going to win 8 or 9 of those games. And the only player that may beat him is maybe a Joe Burrow player, like they did before, because the only players that have beat Mahomes in the playoffs are two men. Joe Burrow and Tom Brady. And until I see it again, I'm not picking against Kansas City and Mahomes, and specifically Mahomes. It's not even Kansas City's not that great of a team. It's just Mahomes.
No, it's honestly insane. And the NFL had Brady running the NFL for a long time, and there was Peyton and there was Rodgers, and it was crazy. I was looking at a stat the other day, like CBS NFL posted it, and it was showing the last 10 AFC championship were like, it was like the Patriots, and now it's the Chiefs. And then like there was like a couple years where it was the Bengals and it was the Patriots, I think. But my point is, like when Brady or Mahomes didn't make it, because there's like that crazy stat out there, like when they didn't make it to the Super Bowl or they didn't win the AFC, they lost the game. So it's not like they weren't even there, right? It's like, my point is like, it's not like they lost in the divisional round, right? When the Bengals won and went to the Super Bowl, they beat the Chiefs. So Mahomes was still freaking there, which is like, it's just insane. Even when they don't make it, which is when they always make it, they were right there on the doorstep anyway. So
it was the Burrow Stafford Super Bowl. I think that you said that
Burrow
Brady.
Stafford. Yes.
Sorry about that. Go ahead. Yeah.
No. I think Mahomes can pass Brady. Absolutely. I just don't people are comfortable with that conversation yet. But I don't see why not. He could end up with 10 Super Bowls.
Yeah, I think he's going to get 10 or 11, maybe even 12. I don't know. Like, he's going to lose a couple of Super Bowls down the road. I'm not going to say he's going to like not win the rest of the Super Bowls. But he is just
he's
incredible.
Unreal.
And people that are saying, that he's had a down year this year because they just look at the yards, like his yard. He's still throwing an insane amount of touchdown passes. That's what I'm saying. And people are like, they think Mahomes has digressed because he's not throwing those deep bombs that he's used to. Well, I look at that as a positive because he's involved his games. He knows he cannot throw the deep. He knows he cannot throw the deep bombs because he doesn't have the deep bomb players. So he has more possession type of players. So he's taking advantage of his personnel. One of Nick's favorite guys, Skip, is the one that's kind of putting out that narrative that he's digressed. But again, he's a Brady guy, so
that's crazy. First of all, that's insane. He is the best quarterback, maybe of all time. I mean, he's up there talent-wise. He always makes the right plays, and I think crazy enough, I'm so glad they're in two different generations because, I mean, they overlapped a little bit, Brady and Mahomes, but I mean, those two guys are, unreal. And I don't think people are ready to realize like this guy might be better. And Josh Allen is up there too. We were talking the other night of like greatest quarterbacks of your lifetime, and just of your lifetime, because I'm not going to put in an Elway or guys that I really wasn't able to watch. But like one to me is Brady.
Yeah.
Two is Mahomes. But damn, it's not that far apart. And to me, I still love Josh Allen and Lamar. So they're both top 10 for me all time because they're just so fun. They're awesome. But if Mahomes didn't exist, we'd probably be talking about Josh Allen like this or Lamar. Like they'd probably doing this, right? So like more so Josh Allen. God, I hope he gets there one day because he deserves it more than anybody. Lamar has struggled in games, but this is digressing. Mahomes is awesome. I do think he has some deep threats now with Worthy, but he hasn't always had that. And it should be another amazing game. Even if he loses, he's still an amazing player.
No, he is. And they're still trying to figure it out because him and the deep ball with Worthy, they've not been able to connect on that early in the season. So they kind of went away with that. But in the offseason, they're going to get in the lab and they're going to focus on that deep ball. And they're definitely going to connect. But I got a question about you for Xavier Worthy. Let's tie this back into a Longhorns player. So say Worthy is on the Chiefs for 10 years and he makes it to, let's just say, 10 Super Bowls and he wins 8 of them.
10.
Would Worthy be one of the greatest Longhorns in the NFL if he has 8 Super Bowl wins? And let's just say he wins a couple of offensive MVPs. Would he be one of the greatest Longhorns in the NFL?
Easily. I don't think he has to win even 8. I think you could say even even 2 or 3. Because I gotta think like how many have won, right? That were really, really good players. And you're gonna have guys that were on a roster, but like how many were gonna be major contributors? And I think if he gets 2 or 3, I think he's definitely in that conversation because he's a guy that balled out at Texas, right? Obviously, he's in the NFL, first round pick. But yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, he's definitely going to be in that conversation. I mean, Bijan to me will always be more talented, I think. Because I think if you go, who's the most talented offensive player in the NFL that's from Texas? Just talent, I would say Bijan, because Bijan, I don't think he's the best running back right now. But if I said he was, you wouldn't be like, that's crazy.
No, it's not a bad take at all. Yeah.
It's not insane. I think it's Jahmyr Gibbs. I think it's Derrick Henry. I think it's Saquon. And then I think you go Bijan, probably 4th or 5th. I don't think that's
5.
crazy. Easily top 5. Jahmyr Gibbs is awesome. Xavier Worthy is never going to be in conversation for a top 5 wide receiver. I think that's where it goes. But as far as decoration and accomplishments, as far as team, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's a great take. I agree with that. And he has a chance to put up a lot of yards in the NFL, make a couple Pro Bowls, all pro teams, and win a couple Super Bowls. So, but again, like we said earlier, we can't go wrong either way because there is one Longhorn on the Eagles, 2 Longhorns on the Chiefs. So either way, a Longhorn is going to win a Super Bowl. I know we went a little long, ladies and gentlemen, but thank you so much for watching this episode of Touchdown Texas. I hope everybody enjoyed our little Texas Longhorn draft. We had a great time doing it, offensive and defensive players, and we talked a little bit about some Longhorns hoops and about the Super Bowl. Me and Nick are going to be back. We're going to continue to find fun ways to do off-season content until we get to the spring practice, which is going to be mid-March. But until then, everybody, have a good one.